Sri Aurobindo's philosophy of education. Aurobindo's philosophy of education was an idealistic to the core. His idealistic philosophy of life was based upon Vedantic philosophy of Upanishad. He maintains that the kind of education we need in our country is an education proper to the Indian soul and need and temperament and culture that we are in quest of. Not indeed something faithful merely to the past, but to the developing soul of India, to her future need, to the greatness of her coming self-creation, to her eternal spirit. Aurobindo's 1956 concept of education is not only acquiring information, but the acquiring of various kinds of information. He points out, is only one and not the chief of the means and necessities of education. Its central aim is the building of the powers of the human mind and spirit. Aurobindo's aim of education. Sri Aurobindo emphasized that education should be in accordance with the needs of our real modern life. In other words, education should create dynamic citizens so that they are able to meet the needs of the modern complex life. According to him, physical development and holiness are the chief aims of education. As such, he not only emphasized mere physical development but physical purity also, without which no spiritual development is possible. In this sense, physical development and purification are the two bases on which the spiritual development is built. The second important aim of education is to train all the senses, hearing, speaking, listening, touching, smelling, and tasting. According to him, these senses can be fully trained when nerve, chit, and manas are pure. Hence, through education, purity of senses is to be achieved before any development is possible. The third aim of education is to achieve mental development of the child. This mental development means the enhancement of all mental faculties, namely memory, thinking, reasoning, imagination, and discrimination, etc. Education should develop them fully and harmoniously. Another important aim of education is to the development of morality. Sri Aurobindo has emphasized that without moral and emotional development only, mental development becomes harmful to human process. Heart of a child should be so developed as to show extreme love, sympathy, and consideration for all living beings. This is real moral development. Thus, the teacher should be a role model to his children that mere imitation can enable them to reach higher and higher stages of development. Development of conscience is another important aim of education that needs to develop by the help of teacher. Conscience has 4 levels: chit, manas, intelligence, and knowledge. Aurobindo emphasized that the main aim of education is to promote spiritual development. According to him, every human being has some fragment of divine existence within himself, and education can scan it from each individual with its full extent. Aurobindo prescribed free environment for the child to develop all his latent faculties to the maximum and suggested all those subjects and activities should possess elements of creativity and educational expression. He wished to infuse a new life and spirit into each subject and activity through which the development of superhuman being could become possible. He laid down the following principles for curriculum. Curriculum should be in such a way which child finds as interesting. It should include those entire subjects which promote mental and spiritual development. It should motivate children towards the attainment of knowledge of the whole world. It should contain creativity of life and constructive capacities. Aurobindo describes curriculum for different stages of education: mother tongue, English, French, literature, national history, art, painting, general science, social studies, and arithmetic should be taught at primary stage. Mother tongue, English, French, literature, arithmetic, art, chemistry, physics, botany, physiology, health education, social studies at secondary stage, Indian and Western philosophy, history of civilization, English literature, French, sociology, psychology, history, chemistry, physics, botany at university level, art, painting, photography, sculptural, drawing, type, cottage industries, mechanical and electrical engineering, nursing, etc. at vocational level. Teacher-taught relationship. Aurobindo enunciates certain sound principles of good teaching which have to be kept in mind when actually engaged in the process of learning. According to Sri Aurobindo, the first principle of true teaching is that nothing can be taught. He explains that the knowledge is already dormant within the child, and for this reason, the teacher is not an instructor or taskmaster, he is a helper and a guide. The role of the teacher is to suggest and not to impose. He does not actually train the pupil's mind. He only shows him how to perfect the instruments of knowledge and helps him to encourages him in the process. He does not impart knowledge to him. He shows him how to acquire knowledge for himself. He does not call forth the knowledge that is within. He only shows him where it lies and how it can be habituated to rise to the surface. School. Sri Aurobindo's philosophy of education aims at modifying the school curriculum, maximizing the learning modalities, helping the child to achieve his potentiality at his own pace and level, and to devote his time to discover himself. This kind of schooling is seen as an antithesis of an imposed uniformity of prescribed courses and teaching which the traditional schools purport to do, and can be linked to what was taught in schools under the colonial rule. The type of schooling visualized by Sri Aurobindo is seen as aiming to bridge the gap between the child's life at school and that at home. In contrast to the educational ideas of Sri Aurobindo, the present-day education system in India is purely an instruction of information enterprise, supported by a subject time-bound curriculum which neither relates to the needs or abilities of the learner nor takes into consideration the way children learn successfully. Instead of being child-oriented, it is subject-oriented. The schools focus on competition with others, mastery of subject matter for getting better marks or grades than on learning in cooperation with and from one another for personal growth and for welfare of others. Discipline. Children should be provided with a free environment so that they are able to gain more and more knowledge by their own efforts. According to him, any retrained and imposed environment stunt the growth and natural development. Aurobindo propagated the concepts of self-discipline, which was the cure of impressionistic discipline. Concept of integral education. Sri Aurobindo's concept of integral education finds its full relevance in the context of what he has called the evolutionary crisis, a crisis that occurs in species at a time when some kind of mutation is imminent. Integral education would not only aim at the integral development of personality, but it would also embrace all knowledge in its scope. It would pursue physical and psychological sciences not merely to know the world and nature in her processes and to use them for material human needs, but to know them in spirit in the world and the ways of spirit in its appearances. It would study ethics in order. Education for humanity. According to Sri Aurobindo, there is within the universal mind and the soul of humanity the mind and soul of the individual with its infinite variations, its commonness and its uniqueness, and between them there are strands and immediate power. the mind of a nation, the soul of the people. In his concept of national system of education, Sri Aurobindo aimed at taking account of these three elements so that national education would not be a machine-made fabric but a true building or a living evocation of the powers of the mind and spirit of human being. According to Sri Aurobindo, one favorable factor which is likely to help contemporary humanity is the contemporary dissatisfaction that has arisen with materialism on the one hand and on the other hand with asceticism, which has been negating the meaning and purposefulness of the material world. After centuries of experiments, materialism is gradually giving way to the pressures of new discoveries which require exploration of psychical and spiritual domains. Similarly, centuries of experiments in the spiritual field have shown that the neglect of material life and neglect of collective welfare results in poverty or bankruptcy and even in economic and political slavery. Mental education. In regard to mental education, the processes and the methods can best be determined by understanding the mind. Mind is concerned largely with the activities of understanding, and all the understanding is a discovery of a center around which the ideas or things in question are held together. Mental education is a process of training the mind of students to arrive at such central concepts around which the widest and the most complex and subtle ideas can be assimilated and integrated. This point marks the climax of the mental development as also a clear sign of the limitation of the mind. Having reached there, its office is to fall into contemplation of silence and to open to the higher realms of experience, to receive clearly and precisely the institutions and inspirations from those higher realms and to give creative expressions to them.